Yes.
I think it's Mr.
Is Laura joining us tonight? No. She said she didn't have any updates. Okay. Maybe if you want to just summarize what she said,
Yeah, I
or
will.
just give some updates on the bond. That's why I left that.
Yeah.
Just figured it'd be our standard.
I'm just not sure if it'll be a long meeting.
And I also didn't hear back from ODOT, which is understandable. This is their busy season, so why you can just say that. Although Glenn said today in the meeting that we should call it order.
We'll call to order the Monday, July 12th, 2021 Bethel Local Schools Board of Education special meeting, Facilities Committee. The time is 6:03 p.m. Ms. Reese, can you please call the roll?
Rick Gilbert.
Here.
Justin Firks.
Present.
Rob Wanamaker. Caleb Runkle. Danny Elam. Lori Sebastian. Here. Julie Reese, present.
We have any additions to the agenda? Communications, meetings, and announcements. Number 5, items for discussion, subcommittee reports. We had our monthly core meeting today with Garmin Miller Architects, representatives from the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission, Peterson Construction, and also other various representatives that are involved in the building project, representing Bethel Local Schools, board members, Lori Sebastian, Julie Reese. We also had other school personnel involved, Mr. Todd Bird, maintenance supervisor, Mr. Damon Smith, athletic director as well. The purpose of that monthly meeting was to give a project update on the K-5 building and also a brief update on the athletic stadium project. We had a number of items that we talked about today. As far as where we're at in the project, we are still in the schematic design phase. Garmin Miller Architects continues to work through that process. And as we continue to get closer to going out to early site package bid, we'll continue to look at items that are on our list that are considered value engineering items to continue to try to fit within the budget. Just a friendly reminder to folks that we are participating in the COPS program. And so with COPS, we are essentially paying the initial portion of the project bill so that we will earn a credit for the next phase project, which will be CFAB, which is a state-funded project. We did delay, just as a friendly reminder and a review, we did delay our acceptance of the percentages to get a better dollar amount from the state of Ohio. We were able to save a significant amount of money on the overall cost of the project by waiting, but we also have run into a few hiccups as well with the increasing costs of construction projects, which I think most people realize that the cost of labor and concrete and wood and all those kind of things have gone up. We are still trying to fit within the budget of what's provided. Another problematic issue that we ran into during this project was that we are receiving state funding dollars from OFCC that are based on 2019 construction cost dollars. And so as you can imagine, in 2021, those costs have gone up. And so we're trying to continuously find ways to do more with less. The good thing is we've been able to value engineer some items. We are still a little bit over budget. We'll continue to look at those items. And we're going to do that while not having to increase taxpayer dollars to help pay for the project, which is a good thing as well.
Yeah, and just to give everybody an idea, Glenn Renner, who is with Peterson Construction said in 2019, OFCC square footage cost was $235, and 2021 construction cost is now $275 per square foot. So that just gives you an idea. I didn't work out the math, but between 15 and 20% increase. So that's the kind of thing we're dealing with. Sorry to interrupt.
No, those are good. So we're dealing with $275 roughly per square foot, but we're living within a $235 per square foot budget. And so if you look at a $40 shortage over a 100,000 square foot building, OFCC really is providing, I think the number they used was $4 million less in funding than if we would have been able to get updated numbers. And that's nobody's fault. That's just the reality of where we're at. And I think it's important to be transparent with everyone to let them know kind of we're continuously spending your tax dollar, payer dollar wisely, and we're doing the most we can, but we are living within our means, so to speak. Some other items that we discussed during our core meeting, some of the work that's taking place most recently over at the farmhouse location. For those folks that have driven down 201 or Agenbrod, you've seen a lot of work going on the last month or so. We were able to sell the bank barn, which was on site. We had a company come in and purchase the bank barn for $15,000, which was a positive. That company will end up repurposing the barn and probably using it for a variety of reasons. We're currently in the process of trying to work with a local animal shelter for the smaller barn. We did request some personal liability insurance for removal of it. We have not received that information yet. So I do know our maintenance supervisor, Mr. Bird, is reaching out to them to see if they're still interested. But we are on a little bit of a limited time frame. So we're going to give them a deadline as far as removal of the barn. If it doesn't work out, we'll go ahead and remove that as well. The farmhouse has been removed from site. You'll see a number of burn piles that have been addressed as well. And right now they're hauling out a lot of the remains and the debris and the concrete from the base of the home and the structure of the home. So the farm site looks much, much different than it did several months ago. Very thankful and appreciative of the people that have been able and willing to come in and do this kind of work for us. We've had a local individual help donate their time and use it as some professional development for some of his workers that he has, as far as what's that called when you try to get
Work
study or
training?
What's that? Apprenticeships. Yeah, apprenticeship. Thank you, Mr. Gilbert. So it's been good for those folks and some good valuable training, and also been able to save the district some money of not having to pay for companies to come in and do the removal, because that was not figured into the site package work with the construction project. So I do know that Garmin-Miller also provided an update to the district in regards to State Route 201. That information has been submitted to the Ohio Department of Transportation, and they are doing an analysis from the traffic study that was done not only by Garmin-Miller, but also Choice One Engineering, as far as what potential work is going to need to be done with 201 as the K-5 building sits in the corner of 201 and Agenbrod. We do have some money that's allocated within our budget for additional work. We fully anticipate that a turn lane and some widening will need to be done. What that cost amount is going to be, we do not know at this time. But Garmin-Miller did say it's a busy time for ODOT, like it is many other entities. So it could be a couple of months before we get back information from ODOT on what that's going to entail for 201. Where they're at right now with the building project, like I mentioned before, we're currently still in schematic design. We'll continue to look at some value engineering items as we continuously go back to reconciliation to try to fit within the budget of what we talked about previously. Stadium updates. Stadium updates is still progressing nicely with schematic design as well. I do know to help stay within budget on that project as well, we're going to look at taking on what's considered a field house. It's essentially the concession stands, locker rooms, restrooms, those kind of things, where we have the materials built into the cost of the project, but we're also looking at some potential in-kind donations and having the athletic boosters take on some of that work as far as labor of putting a steel frame pole barn type structure up that will entail all of those entities as well, which will save a significant amount of money from the district, but also provide a nice product for our community and our football and soccer and track teams and any other organizations that use our facilities out there. Do any of the other board members have any comments at all on items that were discussed during the meeting that I'm forgetting?
Well, one thing that,
There's a lot, so I'm trying to make sure I remember it all.
yeah, well, one thing that the AD mentioned, Mr. Smith, is that he said the fundraising is going really well.
Yeah,
But of course, we can always use more donations. I
yeah.
just wanted to slip that in there.
Right now, unofficially, we're right around $600,000 that's been raised for the additional funds that were needed to provide all the amenities that we were hoping to get out of the stadium, including the artificial surface as well. Some of those have not been announced yet because a couple of those companies are still trying to zero in and pinpoint exactly what name they want to have on the naming rights. So there's some companies, families involved, and they want to make sure they name it exactly what. So that's taken a little bit longer than we had anticipated, but we're also very excited about some of the partnerships that we've continued to develop, not only locally here, but also within the Miami County area. And to be able to procure over 600 grand in donations already this quick speaks to the kind of commitment and support that we get from our local community and businesses for not only Bethel local schools, but also our students and our school system, and also our community organizations that will also be able to utilize this outstanding facility that we're going to have in the very near future. So advertising, naming rights, corporate sponsorships, it's all going very, very well. I do know that within the last month or so, we did have a mailer go home. So as folks continue to think about potentially joining our Bethel Legacy Group, that kind of gives you a brief update on where we're at with fundraising. And if you're interested, we do have our website that's out there. You can visit our website at bethellegacy.com. I believe it's .com, or is it .org?
You're right. It's
.com, which will take you to our site and will provide an abundance of information in regards to what's all going to be provided at our facility and kind of the different options as far as sponsorships or donations and kind of what that will gather to people or get gained to people and how they can contribute in a variety of different ways.
Can you tell folks what the goal is?
The goal was $1 million. So $1 million would be able to provide us with our field house. It'll also be able to provide us with our artificial surface and additional play clocks, additional bleachers as well. Right now, our stadium is projected to seat 1,500. If we're able to procure that full $1 million, we would be able to add an additional 500 seats, which would raise our total attendance to 2,000 spectators, which if you've been to our current facility, it's 864. So it would almost increase it by 2.5 times, which we think is a good starting number, with obviously the potential to down the road continuously add additional bleachers as the district grows. So you can kind of see the different naming rights that have been sold already, what's available. You can see we've sold the naming rights to the athletic stadium, the name of the field turf for the stadium surface, the 8-lane track naming rights. We still have available press box, concession stands, home locker room and home stands. And then the one that has been announced is the TIP Foundation has graciously purchased the naming rights to our pavilion and walkway. So thank you to the TIP Foundation for their $25,000 donation to the project as well. And so there's different levels of sponsorships that folks can contribute. And then we're also currently working on some advertising sponsorship for the school board. And I do know that we recently sold one to Garmin Miller, our architectural firm has bought one. So that's nice. I know Mr. Smith's kind of working through the contract with them, and we're happy to have them as one of our sponsors as well, our school board. that kind of gives you a detailed summary of where we're at with the stadium project and the dollar amount that we're trying to raise, where we're at currently, and also some of the options that are also still out there for any individuals or companies or businesses that would like to help leave a legacy at Bethel Local Schools for not only current students, but also future students in our community. Anything else from any of the committee members that were at the meeting today?
I'd just like to reiterate, this is Lori Sebastian, by the way, because I know it's hard to put a name with a face, voice. One other thing we talked about, I asked a lot of questions about the budget today because of concerns with the construction costs. And one of the other things they said we need to be very aware of was lead times of material like steel, and they will be conversing with us in the future on that. So we're all kind of aware of what some of the pitfalls and problems are going to be, and we'll see how it plays out. But those questions were asked today. And then there's also 3 variances. Justin, were you going to work with Garmin Miller on those 3 variances and approach? You want to talk about that, or do you want me to?
Yeah. If I forget any, please
Yeah.
let me know, because like I said, there was a lot of information that we covered in an hour. So we continue to look at value engineering. So how can we get the most bang for our buck, and what are some areas that maybe are nice amenities to have that maybe necessarily aren't needed, so that we can help trim the budget a little bit and not have to cut big ticket items that we all think are good additions to the building project. And so one of the items had to do with the blinds on a window. So there's kind of two different types. You can have the blinds that are embedded with inside the window, which you currently see in our media center, or you can have the roll-away blinds on the exterior of the window, almost like a window shade type. But OFCC and the design manual, they're pretty particular on what you're allowed to put in the building and what you're not allowed to put in the building. And people might ask, well, if the school district's paying for the first portion of the project, how can they be so picky? Well, realize that we're going to gain a credit that they're going to help pay for the second phase. So they're going to have some limitations on what we're able to do. And so as we work through this project and we look at certain areas in which we can try to value engineer, the window blinds was one of those items. And so in discussions with Valerie Montoya, who was our rep from OFCC, she had mentioned that Garmin and Miller and the school district can write a variance for that item. And it has to be more than just to cut money. So we have to show some other reasons on maybe historically the district has used these type of blinds and it's worked better, it's easier for cleaning, or just a variety of different things that we'll get creative with. And there's no guarantee that the variance will get approved, but we can at least approach OFCC's committee that will look at it. So that was one of the items. Second item had to do with classroom sinks. And a lot of building projects, classroom sinks are typically placed in preschool classrooms, which we do not have a preschool, and also kindergarten. Well, in this design manual update, they now request or require classroom sinks in every classroom K through 5. Typically, you would put them in your lower classrooms age level, and then maybe also an art room or a science room. So we're trying to look at those 2nd, 3rd grade, 4th grade classrooms of maybe eliminating some of those classroom sinks, and the kids can walk down to the community bathrooms to wash hands and those kind of things. Once again, that would be a significantly value engineered item for the district. We would have to write a variance to see if OFCC's committee would consider that to help us stay within the means of a budget. What was the third item?
Soundproofing. I think removing some of the soundproofing.
Yes, another of the items had to do with soundproofing some of the spaces throughout the building, and really trying to identify what are those key critical places that need soundproofing and where are some other areas that maybe don't need it as much because it's just an additional pie in the sky type item. So they've looked at that as well, and then also some lighting in the auditorium and maybe a speaker system in the auditorium as well. Can that be provided by the district, or can we have like a portable speaker system till we figure out what we want to do long term with that cafetorium type setting? So.
And Laura did say if OFCC meets twice a month, this committee that approves these variances, so we're not gonna be waiting like 6 months to figure this out, because I did ask that, I said, well, what's the time frame? Because some of these committees only meet a couple times a year. And then she also said, if they don't approve the variance and we go ahead with it, disadvantage is we would lose the funding for that part of the project. So we'll have to make a decision. Hopefully Justin and Garvin Miller can get that submitted in the next month, and we'll make a decision one way or the other, because without knowing their decision, we won't know what we want to do. I mean, Julie, did you have thoughts?
That's pretty much summarized it.
Yeah. And there's also some other items that we're gonna have additional discussions with that were brought up in the work session in regards to some of our school funding dollars, additional school funding dollars that we're receiving, and also some of the ESSER dollars that we're receiving. They have the potential to be used to help offset some of the costs with the budget constraints that we're under. But obviously that would need to be discussions amongst the board members, and if any decisions made by them as well. So we do have some additional funds that we could look to get creative with also from the state level that we recently received.
And then for the board members and other committee members who weren't here, probably the only other thing they talked about was the timeline, because I get kind of antsy. I know when we started this new facility for the high school, we were pouring concrete in November 2 years before the building was done. And they said, well, we'd like to get the dirt moved and the site work all done this fall, early winter. So they're hoping to get that done. I don't know about the concrete, but they said, even if we can have to do the concrete in March, it'll be okay. Because I said, look, we've got to open this August of 2023. So I did make that very clear today in the board meeting. So I think everybody's on the same page. So I just wanted to mention that with the timeframes, they will be hopefully moving dirt before the ground freezes this winter. That's the plan.
Pretty good summary.
Okay.
So the next future steps, we're still gonna do.
Yeah, the next steps, future steps will hopefully wrap up the design phase here. And then obviously we have to continue to have discussions with Carmen Miller and Peterson on the reconciliation phase, which is the budget portion of the project. We've made some significant strides in that regards, but right now it's really difficult to zero in on a number because we haven't went out to early site package bids yet. So they are essentially just using dollar amounts for current projects they have going on and estimates of what they currently think labor and products cost, which is almost like a shell game. It's constantly.
Yes. And then once we get that number, or the actual numbers, then that's when we have to make the decisions. on
Yeah,
what stays and what goes.
Yep.
If something has to,
absolutely.
or if we apply more funding.
Yeah. Yes. And I would fully anticipate having, because there hasn't been significant changes and items going on, I would anticipate having Garmin Miller at our August work session meeting to be able to give probably a more detailed update on the project. Do we have any hearing of the public at all? No comments? Okay, so our next meeting will be August 9th, 2021 at 6 o'clock
We don't have to order for it.
PM. I will check, but I don't anticipate it. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Ms. Reese? Can I get a second? Mr. Gilbert? Thank you. Ms. Reese, can you please call the roll?
Kurt Gilbert?
Here.
Justin?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Julie? Yes.
6:26. Meeting adjourned at 6:26 PM. Thank you for your time this evening.
Finger that reads it, then
Yeah,
it takes the screen.
it does.
So I'm holding up to you.
I do it all the time.